mess with my mind.
Kid tricks!
You can fool my eye, but don't mess with my mind.
Kid tricks! Kid tricks! Kid tricks! Kid tricks!
Most people don't know that they can be tricked by someone who says that they have powers. And second, most people want to believe that somehow our brains can have special powers. There are even games people play where they pretend to have powers, evil powers that aren't good games to play. One game is called the Ouija board. When people use the Ouija board, they put their hands on what is called the planchette. Then they move their hands around on the board that has letters and the words yes and no. People believe that a spirit will help them spell out words that will tell them something important and answer yes and no questions. Scientists know it is the person moving the planchette and not a spirit, but it's dangerous to pretend that a spirit is in you. Another game that's best to leave alone is Dungeons and Dragons. In this game, people pretend they're witches and sorcerers and that they kill and hurt people. You might ask why you shouldn't play with one of these games, say in your home or at a friend's house. Well, anytime that you pretend that there's an evil spirit in you or that you're killing somebody else, you run the risk that you might be messing up your own mind or someone else's. And in many cases, kids have either killed each other or killed themselves by pretending to play these kinds of games. And what they did back in those days is if somebody died early, in other words, before the other prisoners on the cross, they would make sure that they were dead, because if they weren't dead, they'd do what to the executioner? They'd kill him, right? What they would do is they would take a spear and they'd push it in his side, all the way inside of him, to make sure he was dead. If you were a friend to have a game like this in your house, throw it out and get rid of it. When you have to pretend that you have an evil power in order to play a game, it's not the kind of game you should play. There are plenty other games to play. Games that are lots of fun and no chance of anyone getting hurt or hurting others. Who's a person that you might go to say if you were trying to check out the story about Jesus, who would you go to? Brian, who do you think you'd go to?
Well, my parents or my grandparents.
Some of us might be able to go to a Sunday school teacher. And do you know what Jesus said? He said if you want to go to heaven, you have to believe in him. Now, I don't know about you, but before I'd want to believe in something like that, because that's really important, isn't it? Where you're going to go after you die, you'd want to check it out with all of your what? All of your mind and all of your heart. But you know what? I do believe there are real supernatural powers. Powers that don't come from our mind, but powers that come from God or Satan. You see, God's powers are good. He knows what we're thinking, and he also knows what's going to happen to us in the future. Now, some people will try and trick us and tell us their powers come from God. Before we believe them, we have to check it out. Ask your pastor or a Sunday school teacher. They'll be glad to help you, because you see, Satan will try and trick us. He can't read our minds, and he can't predict the future. But through people like psychics, he'll try and trick us. But when we have Jesus in our hearts, we don't have to be afraid of Satan's powers, because God will protect us. When Jesus died and came back to life and then went back to heaven, he knew that it would be hard for some of us to believe that he really came back to life, because there are so many people out there faking that they really have powers. That's why he said that if you want to believe in him, he wants us to check out the facts and find out how he died and came back to life. I did, and that's why I asked him into my heart. And he's always been a friend that I can trust. And the Bible, well, it's never steered me wrong on how to live my life and love and help others. After you watch this last trick, why don't you give it some thought and check out the facts about Jesus? Until the next time, I'm your friend, Danny Corum.